There comes a moment in life when the noise of the world becomes louder than the voice within you. Expectations, opinions, fears, comparisons, they all gather around your mind like storms. And in that chaos, the soft whisper of your heart begins to fade. But the truth is, your heart has always known the way. Long before the world told you who to be, your heart already carried the blueprint of who you are meant to become. You were not born to live someone else's definition of success. You were not created to shrink so others could feel comfortable. Inside you lives a calling, quiet, powerful, persistent. It does not shout, but it never leaves. And the more you ignore it, the heavier your soul begins to feel. Listening to your heart is not easy. If it were easy, everyone would be living fulfilled lives. Listening to your heart requires courage. The courage to stand alone, the courage to disappoint people, the courage to walk paths that have no guarantees. It asks you to trust what you cannot yet see. There will be days when logic will fight your heart. Logic will show you statistics, risks, failures. It will tell you to stay safe, to stay small, to stay where approval lives. But your heart will show you possibility. It will show you purpose. It will show you a life that feels meaningful, not just comfortable. And the tragedy of life is not failure. The real tragedy is living a life that looks perfect on the outside, but feels empty on the inside. So many people wake up every day wearing masks, smiling for the world while silently breaking within. They followed the noise instead of the whisper. They chose acceptance over authenticity, and slowly they forgot what their own voice sounded like. But you still have time. Your heart speaks in different ways. Sometimes it speaks through your passions, the things that make you lose track of time. Sometimes it speaks through your pain, the struggles that shape your strength. Sometimes it speaks through your restlessness, the feeling that you are meant for more. Do not ignore that restlessness. It is not dissatisfaction. It is direction. The world will try to label you too emotional, too ambitious, too different, too unrealistic. But remember, every person who changed their life first had to be misunderstood. Every person who followed their heart first had to walk through doubt. You cannot discover your purpose by asking everyone else what you should do. Purpose is not voted on by society. It is revealed in solitude, in honesty, in the quiet conversations you have with yourself. When you listen to your heart, you begin to live intentionally. You stop chasing applause and start chasing alignment. You stop asking, will they approve? And start asking, does this feel right to my soul? And yes, listening to your heart will cost you something. It may cost you comfort. It may cost you relationships. It may cost you certainty. But it will never cost you your identity. Because the cost of not listening is far greater. The cost of not listening is regret. And regret is heavier than failure could ever be. Failure teaches. Regret haunts. Your heart does not promise you an easy journey. It promises you a meaningful one. It promises growth, depth, authenticity. It promises that when you look back at your life, you will see courage instead of compliance. There will be moments when you will question yourself. Moments when fear will sit beside you and whisper, "What if you are wrong?" In those moments, pause and ask yourself a deeper question: what if I am right? What if the dream inside you exists for a reason? What if your struggles are preparing you, not punishing you? What if the path you fear is the path that frees you? You see, your heart is not naive. It is wise. It carries the lessons of your experiences, the truths of your values, the echoes of your purpose. It knows what fulfills you because it knows who you are beneath survival, beneath expectations, beneath fear. Listening to your heart also means trusting your worth. It means believing that your voice matters, your story matters, your existence matters. It means refusing to live as a background character in your own life. You are not here to be a copy. You are here to be an original. And originality requires bravery. When you listen to your heart, you may walk slower than others, but you will walk truer. You may arrive later than others, but you will arrive as yourself. There is a different kind of success that comes from heart-led living. It is quieter but deeper. It is not measured only in money or status, but in peace, in fulfillment, in the ability to sleep at night knowing you did not betray your soul. Because at the end of the day, the world's applause cannot silence your inner truth. You can achieve everything they told you to chase, and still feel incomplete if your heart was never in it. So learn to sit with yourself. Turn down the noise. Step away from comparison. Create space for honesty. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? What makes me feel alive? What kind of life would make me proud, not just approved? And when the answers come, do not run from them. Walk toward them, even if your steps shake. Your heart does not need perfection to begin. It needs permission. Permission from you to trust it, to follow it, to honor it. You will make mistakes, you will take wrong turns, but even your wrong turns will teach you more than standing still ever could. Because a heart-led mistake still carries growth, while a fear-led life carries stagnation. Remember this, strength is not only in endurance, strength is also in authenticity. It takes strength to admit what you truly want. It takes strength to change direction. It takes strength to choose fulfillment over familiarity. And the most powerful moment in a person's life is when they stop living by default and start living by design, a design written by their own heart. You deserve a life that feels like yours, not borrowed, not forced, not performed, yours. So when the world becomes loud again, and it will, return to yourself. Place your hand over your heart and listen carefully. Beneath the fear, beneath the doubt, beneath the noise, your truth is still there, steady and patient, waiting for you to trust it enough to follow where it leads. The world is full of noise. It begins the moment you open your eyes each day. Voices telling you what success should look like, how fast you should achieve it, what choices are considered respectable, and which dreams are considered unrealistic. Family expectations, societal standards, comparisons on screens, and the silent pressure of watching others move ahead, all of forms a constant storm around your mind. And in the middle of that storm, there exists a softer voice, quieter, calmer, but infinitely more truthful. That voice is your inner voice. Your inner voice does not compete with the world. It does not how to be heard. It whispers. And because it whispers, many people miss it. They become so busy meeting expectations that they forget to meet themselves. They learn how to perform, but they forget how to feel. They master the art of pleasing others while slowly disconnecting from their own truth. But your inner voice is your compass. Long before anyone told you who to become, your heart already carried instincts about what fulfills you. As a child, you did not need validation to love what you loved. You were drawn naturally towards certain passions, curiosities, and dreams. That was your inner voice in its purest form, unfiltered by fear. As you grow older, the world begins to layer you with definitions. Practicality replaces passion. Approval replaces authenticity. You start measuring your worth through acceptance rather than alignment, and this is where the disconnection begins. Not because your inner voice disappears, but because external noise becomes louder. External noise is persuasive. It uses fear as its language. It asks you questions that make you doubt yourself. What if you fail? What will people say? What if you choose wrong? What if you regret it? These questions feel logical, responsible, even wise. But often they are rooted in fear, not truth. They are designed to keep you safe, not fulfilled. Your inner voice speaks differently. It asks quieter but deeper questions. Does this feel right to me? Am I becoming who I want to be? Does this path bring me alive or drain me? Is this my choice, or someone else's expectation living through me? Listening to your inner voice requires stillness, and stillness is rare in a distracted world. People fear silence, because silence removes distraction, and without distraction, honesty appears. When you sit quietly with yourself, you begin to hear truths you have been avoiding. You may realize you are chasing something you never truly wanted. You may realize you are living a life designed by fear. You may realize your definition of success was borrowed, not chosen. These realizations can feel uncomfortable, even frightening. But discomfort is often the doorway to authenticity. Trusting your inner voice does not mean rejecting the world entirely. It means filtering the world through your truth. Advice can guide you, but it should not replace you. Opinions can inform you, but they should not define you, because no one else lives inside your mind. No one else carries your exact combination of dreams, wounds, values, and desires. People may love you, care for you, and want the best for you, but their best is shaped by their fears and experiences, not yours. When you ignore your inner voice long enough, your life may look stable on the outside, but conflicted on the inside. You may achieve milestones yet feel strangely disconnected from them. You may receive applause yet feel empty hearing it. That emptiness is not ingratitude, it is misalignment. Alignment happens when your actions reflect your inner truth, when what you do matches who you are, when your daily life does not feel like a performance but an extension of your identity. Trusting your inner voice requires courage because it often leads you away from the crowd. The crowd feels safe because it is crowded. Validation is abundant there, but purpose is rarely found in crowded spaces. It is found where individuality lives. Sometimes your inner voice will guide you toward paths that make no sense to others. Creative paths, unconventional careers, different lifestyles, slower journeys, deeper callings. And people may question you, not always out of malice but out of unfamiliarity. They fear what they do not understand. And anything heart-led often cannot be explained logically at the beginning. This is where trust becomes essential. Not blind trust, but inner trust, built by listening to yourself repeatedly and seeing the wisdom in your instincts. Your inner voice will not always lead you to comfort, but it will lead you to growth. It will push you to evolve, to confront fears, to expand beyond limitations. External noise keeps you within accepted boundaries. Your inner voice invites you beyond them. There is also a difference between ego and inner voice. Ego is loud, reactive, approval-seeking. Inner voice is calm, grounded, steady. Ego wants recognition. Inner voice wants alignment. Ego fears judgment. Inner voice seeks truth. Learning to distinguish between the two is part of self-awareness. The more honest you become with yourself, the clearer your inner voice becomes, and the more you trust it, the stronger it grows. You begin making decisions with clarity rather than confusion. You stop over-explaining your choices because you understand them internally. You no longer need constant reassurance because your direction feels rooted, not borrowed. Trusting your inner voice also transforms how you experience failure. When you fail while following your truth, the pain is lighter because there is no self-betrayal attached. You may stumble, but you do not feel lost. There is dignity even in your mistakes because they were authentically yours. But when you fail while living someone else's expectations, the pain cuts deeper because alongside failure comes resentment, the feeling that you abandoned yourself for an outcome that was never guaranteed. External noise measures success through visibility, titles, wealth, recognition. Your inner voice measures success through fulfillment, peace, meaning, authenticity. One is loud and celebrated. The other is quiet but sustaining. When you begin trusting your inner voice, your life may not look impressive to everyone, but it will feel honest to you, and that honesty creates a deeper confidence than applause ever could. You stop seeking permission to exist as yourself. You stop negotiating your truth for acceptance. You start building a life that reflects your values rather than trends. And even in moments of uncertainty, here remains a strange steadiness within you. The steadiness that comes from knowing you are listening, not ignoring, trusting, not silencing, honoring, not abandoning the voice that has always known the way forward even when the world tried to drown it. Out following your heart sounds poetic when spoken about, but in reality, it is one of the bravest decisions a person can ever make. It is not a soft journey, it is a courageous one, because the moment you decide to listen to your heart, you step into uncertainty. You step away from guarantees, from approval, from the safety of predictable paths, and courage becomes your greatest companion. Courage is often misunderstood. People think courage means the absence of fear. But courage is not fearlessness. It is action despite fear. It is moving forward while your hands shake, while your mind doubts, while your path remains unclear. When you choose to follow your heart, fear naturally appears. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of losing stability. These fears are not signs that you are on the wrong path. They are signs that you are stepping outside your comfort zone. Comfort zones feel safe because they are familiar, not because they are fulfilling. Many people stay in lives that feel predictable but empty simply because they fear the unknown more than they value authenticity. But courage asks a different question. Is safety worth the cost of self-betrayal? Because every time you silence your heart to stay comfortable, a quiet resentment builds within you. You may not notice it immediately, but over time it grows, showing up as frustration, burnout, or a constant feeling that something is missing. Following your heart requires the courage to disappoint people. This is one of the hardest parts. You may be loved deeply, yet still expected to live according to others' definitions of success. When you choose differently, it can feel like betrayal, not because you are wrong, but because you are choosing yourself. And choosing yourself is often mistaken for selfishness in a world that rewards conformity. But there is a difference between selfishness and self-honoring. Selfishness harms others for personal gain. Self-honoring simply refuses to abandon one's truth. You can love people and still choose a path they do not understand. You can respect their opinions without surrendering your identity. Courage lives in that balance, standing firm without becoming bitter. There will also be moments when you stand alone, not permanently, but temporarily, because heart-led paths are rarely crowded at the beginning. Validation usually arrives later, once results appear, but courage is required long before recognition. You may start something no one believes in. You may leave something everyone admires. You may pursue something others consider unrealistic. In those moments, courage becomes internal, not external. No applause fuels you. Only conviction does. And conviction is built through self-trust, trusting that your inner voice is not misleading you, that your dreams are not accidental, that your longing for more exists for a reason. Following your heart also requires the courage to face uncertainty. Logical paths often come with step-by-step guarantees. Heart-led paths come with questions instead of answers. How will this work? When will results come? What if it fails? You may not always know, and that not knowing can feel terrifying, but uncertainty is not emptiness. It is possibility. It is the space where growth happens, where creativity expands, where resilience forms. Courage allows you to walk through uncertainty without needing full visibility. It teaches you to trust the next step, even when you cannot see the entire staircase. There will also be failures along the way, not small ones, real ones, plans collapsing, efforts unrecognized, doors closing. These moments test whether you are committed to comfort or committed to purpose. Because when you follow your heart, failure does not mean stop, it means adjust. It means learn, evolve, and continue. Courage transforms failure from a wall into a teacher. Without courage, failure feels like proof you were wrong. With courage, failure becomes proof you are trying. Following your heart also requires emotional courage, the courage to feel deeply, to care deeply, to invest yourself fully into something meaningful. Detached living feels safer because it protects you from disappointment, but it also protects you from fulfillment. A guarded heart avoids pain, but also avoids purpose. Courage invites you to live open, knowing you may get hurt, knowing things may not work out, yet choosing authenticity anyway. There will be people who misunderstand your journey. Some will project their fears onto you. Some will question your decisions, some may even mock what they cannot comprehend. Courage means continuing without becoming hardened by their doubt. It means understanding that others' limitations are not your boundaries. You do not need universal belief to pursue personal truth. Courage also means taking responsibility for your life. When you follow your heart, you cannot blame others for your choices. You own your direction fully, the wins and the losses. This ownership is powerful. It shifts you from victimhood to authorship. You stop waiting for permission. You start creating intention. And even though the journey is difficult, it builds an unshakable confidence. Not the loud confidence of ego, but the quiet confidence of alignment. You begin to trust yourself more with each courageous step. Decisions become clearer. Doubt loses its grip. You realize that bravery is not a one-time act, but a daily practice. Every day you choose authenticity over approval. Every day you choose growth over comfort. Every day you choose truth over fear. Courage compounds. The more you follow your heart, the stronger your resilience becomes. You learn that uncertainty is survivable. Rejection is survivable. Failure is survivable. And once you realize you can survive what you once feared, your freedom expands. Because fear loses power when faced repeatedly. Following your heart is not about recklessness. It is about conscious bravery, making decisions rooted in truth rather than avoidance. It is about respecting your life enough to live it fully rather than safely. And one day when you look back, you may see scars from the risks you took, the failures you endured, the doubts you fought. But alongside those scars you will see strength, the strength that only courage could build. You will see a life shaped by choice, not by fear. A path carved intentionally, not followed passively. A story written with bravery, not hesitation. Because courage was never about guarantees. It was about willingness, the willingness to trust your heart enough to follow where it leads, even when the road ahead asks more from you than comfort ever did. There is a silent cost to ignoring your heart. It does not appear immediately, and that is why many people fail to recognize it. On the surface, life may seem stable. You may be doing what is expected, following what is considered practical, achieving what looks respectable. Everything may appear in order from the outside, but deep within something begins to feel misaligned, like living in a house that looks beautiful but never feels like home. Ignoring your heart rarely creates instant chaos. Instead, it creates slow emptiness. You wake up each day with responsibility but without excitement. You move through routines efficiently but without connection. You accomplish goals, yet fulfillment never quite arrives. There is always a quiet feeling that something is missing, something you cannot explain to others because, technically, everything seems fine. That feeling is not confusion, it is disconnection. When you ignore your heart, you begin living by default instead of by design. Decisions are made to maintain approval, stability, or familiarity, not authenticity. And over time, this distance between who you are and how you live begins to widen. At first, the gap feels manageable. You tell yourself you are being practical, responsible, mature. You convince yourself that dreams are luxuries and security is priority. And yes, responsibility matters, but responsibility without authenticity becomes emotional imprisonment. Because your heart does not stop speaking just because you stop listening. It continues whispering through restlessness, through dissatisfaction, through the quiet envy you feel when you see others living boldly. Not because you want their lives specifically, but because you recognize the courage you abandoned within yourself. Ignoring your heart often feels safe in the short term. It protects you from risk, from judgment, from uncertainty. You avoid failure because you never attempt what truly calls you. You avoid rejection because you never present your authentic self. But this safety is deceptive. It removes visible danger while creating invisible regret. Regret is heavier than failure because failure is active while regret is passive. Failure comes from trying. Regret comes from not trying. Failure carries lessons, growth, stories, resilience. Regret carries questions that never get answered. What if I had tried? What if I had trusted myself? What if I had taken that chance? These questions echo louder with time, not quieter. They do not fade, they deepen, because opportunities ignored rarely return in the same form. When you ignore your heart for too long, you may begin resenting the very life you built, not because it is bad, but because it is not yours. It was shaped more by expectation than by identity. This resentment can show up in subtle ways: irritability without clear reason, lack of motivation, emotional exhaustion despite physical rest. You may feel ungrateful for feeling this way, especially when others view your life as successful, but gratitude cannot replace alignment. You can appreciate what you have and still acknowledge that your soul feels misplaced within it. Ignoring that truth does not make it disappear, it only buries it deeper. Many people fear following their heart because they believe regret comes from failure, but most lifelong regret comes from silence, the silence of dreams unspoken, passions unpursued, truths unexpressed. You see it often in later years of life. People rarely regret the risks they took that did not work out. They regret the risks they were too afraid to take, because even unsuccessful attempts bring closure. You know you tried, you know you explored, you know you honored your calling enough to test it. But ignored callings leave permanent curiosity, a lifelong wondering of who you might have become. Ignoring your heart also impacts your sense of identity. When you continuously make choices misaligned with your truth, you begin losing clarity about who you are. You adapt so often to external expectations that you forget your original voice. You become skilled at functioning, but disconnected from feeling. Skilled at achieving, but disconnected from meaning. Life becomes performance rather than expression, and performance is exhausting because it requires constant maintenance. Constant approval, constant validation, constant comparison. When your heart leads your life, your energy flows naturally because you are moving in alignment. But when fear leads your life, everything feels heavier because you are carrying resistance within yourself. Ignoring your heart may protect your image, but it erodes your spirit. There is also a quiet grief attached to self-betrayal. Not dramatic grief, but subtle sadness. The sadness of knowing you are capable of more but choosing less. The sadness of silencing parts of yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant to contain you. Over time, this grief can transform into numbness. You stop dreaming because dreaming feels pointless. You stop imagining because imagination reminds you of what you abandoned. But numbness is not peace, it is suppressed longing. Listening to your heart may bring uncertainty, but ignoring it brings stagnation. And stagnation is far more suffocating than struggle. At least struggle carries movement, growth, evolution. Ignoring your heart freezes your potential in place. It convinces you that it is too late, too risky, too impractical to change direction. But often that belief is fear disguised as logic, because the longer you wait, the louder regret becomes. And regret does not only come at the end of life. It appears in small moments. When you see someone living your abandoned dream, when you feel excitement for something you told yourself was unrealistic, when you imagine an alternate version of your life that feels more honest than your current one. These flashes are reminders, not punishments. Reminders that your heart's voice never disappeared, only your willingness to listen did. Ignoring your heart may win you approval, stability, predictability, but it often costs you aliveness. That deep sense of being connected to your own existence. A life without aliveness is not tragic because it is painful. It is tragic because it is empty, and emptiness is harder to heal than pain. Pain can be processed, understood, released. Emptiness requires rediscovering what was lost, your voice, your courage, your truth. The longer you ignore your heart, the more rebuilding it requires to return to it, because listening Ain means confronting all the years you silenced it. It means forgiving yourself for the compromises you made out of fear. It means allowing yourself to believe that fulfillment is still possible. And that belief alone can feel overwhelming after long disconnection. But the truth remains. Regret grows in the spaces where courage was absent. It feeds on hesitation, on self-doubt, on postponed dreams. And while failure may leave temporary scars, regret leaves permanent questions, questions that linger quietly within you, asking who you might have become if you had trusted your heart enough to follow it when it first called your name, instead of turning away toward the safer path that never truly felt like your own. You bring all these truths together. One realization stands above everything else. Your life becomes meaningful not when you satisfy the world, but when you honor yourself. Listening to your heart is where alignment begins. It is where confusion finds clarity, where fear meets courage, and where existence transforms into purpose. You learn that the voice within you is not accidental. It is not naive. It is not unrealistic. It is the most honest guidance you will ever receive. The world may offer advice, but your heart offers direction. The world may promise safety, but your heart promises fulfillment. And when you trust it, truly trust it, something powerful shifts within you. You stop measuring your life through comparison and start measuring it through connection. You stop chasing validation and start building authenticity. You stop asking for permission and start giving yourself acceptance. Yes, the journey will challenge you. It will ask for brave, airy when fear feels easier. It will ask for faith when certainty is absent. It will ask you to walk alone before the right people begin walking beside you. But it will also give you something nothing else can give: peace. Not the fragile peace that depends on approval, but the deep peace that comes from knowing you did not abandon yourself, because at the end of the day, achievements fade, applause quiets, and expectations change. But the relationship you have with your own soul remains. And the greatest victory is not proving yourself to the world, it is remaining true to yourself despite the world. So trust that inner whisper, follow it when it calls you toward growth. Stand by it when doubt surrounds you. Protect it when noise tries to silence it, because your heart does not lead you to a perfect life, it leads you to your life. And when you finally stand at the horizon of everything you chose, everything you risked, everything you became, you will realize that the bravest decision you ever made was simply this: you listened.